ready for Bowl Mania? We are here on Chat Sports' College Football Now. On today's show, we have the full list of all 41 bowl games this bowl season. We'll tell you what they are and the ones that excite us the most on this edition of College Football Now. Let's begin with the College Football Playoff semifinals. It all begins with the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl game presented by Prudential between number 1 Michigan and number 4 Alabama from the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. The most beautiful setting in college football, a 5 p.m. Eastern start. The Big Ten champion Wolverines with a tough draw against the SEC champion Alabama Crimson Tide, who ultimately get in over Florida State. There was some controversy with that, but you better believe this Alabama team is certainly capable of winning this one. The winner of that game will face the winner of this contest between Washington and Texas in the Sugar Bowl, the College Football Playoff semifinal from New Orleans at Caesars Superdome. Washington wins the Pac-12, a win against Oregon on Friday night. Texas gets the job done in the Big 12 Conference with a dominating win over the Oklahoma State Cowboys, certainly riding on that non-conference win that they had at Alabama earlier this year. Two very good teams, two very good quarterbacks with Michael Penix Jr. and Quinn Ewers leading the way. So, of the college football playoff teams, who do you got winning it all? You going with the Michigan Wolverines? Type M. If you're going with Washington, type W. Texas, type T. Alabama, type A. It's our pin comment today. Weigh in. Tell us who you think will be winning the national championship when it's all said and done. Now to the New Year's Six Bowls. On January 1st, it is the Fiesta Bowl featuring the Oregon Ducks and Liberty, who is the highest-ranked Group of 5 team. They'll go to a New Year's Six Bowl for the first time ever for that program, taking place at State Farm Stadium on New Year's Day. The Orange Bowl, the de facto fifth-place game, if you want to call it, Florida State, despite the undefeated record, finds themselves missing the playoff. They'll stay in their home state to play in the Orange Bowl against a Georgia team that was just one game short of making the college football playoff and saw the nation's longest win streak come to an end there in the SEC title game. Should be a fantastic matchup there. Then, in the Peach Bowl on December 30th, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin and company, taking out James Franklin's Penn State squad from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Both these teams with very solid seasons, looking to finish on a high note. In the Cotton Bowl, the Missouri Tigers finish with the best season they've had in quite some time for Eli Drinkwitz and company, and they face an Ohio State team that, much like Florida State and Georgia, was one game short of the playoff themselves as they fell to Michigan in the game a couple of weeks ago. Ohio State, don't know if we're going to see Marvin Harrison Jr. or not. A lot of talent on that Ohio State team. You have to imagine they'll be big favorites there against the Missouri Tigers. So, we have gone through a number of games, and there's still plenty more. Are there too many bowl games? There's no such thing as too many bowl games. If you think there are too many bowl games, you're out of your mind. Let us know what you think. Y for yes, in for no if there are too many bowl games and not weigh in. Now, the rest of them. Let's begin December 16th. The Myrtle Beach Bowl. Bring your tie-dye shirts if you want to go see Georgia Southern take on Ohio. That game starting 11 a.m. on the 16th. The New Orleans Bowl. The first of many bowl games there in New Orleans. Louisiana gets a home game of sorts as they take on Jacksonville State, who's going bowling for the first time ever in program history. The Cure Bowl, Appalachian State takes on Miami of Ohio. That game in Orlando. Both those teams with very solid seasons. App State with the big upset win over James Madison. Miami of Ohio, a very good year in the MAC Conference. The New Mexico Bowl is going to be a home game of sorts for New Mexico State as they'll go to Albuquerque to take on a solid Fresno State team, one of the better teams in the Mountain West this season. The LA Bowl, Boise State, they fired their coach and then had a nice finish to the year. They find themselves in the LA Bowl, hosted by Gronk, not Jimmy Kimmel this year, and they will face UCLA, who was talking about firing Chip Kelly a couple weeks ago, then had a massive win against USC. They get a home game there for that one. Also on December 16th, the Independence Bowl. Everybody loves a visit to Shreveport as Texas Tech will be taking on Cal. That game getting started at 9:15. The Texas Tech Red Raiders with a bit of a disappointing season. Cal goes bowling for the first time in quite a while. Today's show is sponsored by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how PrizePicks works. You choose two or more players at any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points, receiving yards, passing touchdowns, completions, and more. And I got to tell you, I am going with what I think is going to be a winner beginning tonight, with Jordan Love having less than 219.5 passing yards, Jake Browning having 218.5 less than that on passing yards, and Patrick Mahomes to have more than 20 fantasy points. If all three of these hit and I put $20 down, I'm making $100 on PrizePicks. You can too. You can play along with me at PrizePicks.com/CLNS and get a $100 deposit match on your first entry. That's PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. PrizePicks, proud partner of College Football Now by Chat Sports. The famous Toastery Bowl features Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers, taking on Old Dominion on December 18th. December 19th, the Frisco Bowl. Marshall takes on UTSA. Good year for Jeff Traylor and company there with the Road Runners. The Boca Raton Bowl. South Florida will face Syracuse. Syracuse will have a new head coach in 2024. The Gasparilla Bowl there in Tampa Bay. UCF will face Duke. Riley Leonard in the transfer portal, unlikely to play in that game for the Blue Devils. The Birmingham Bowl. Georgia Tech takes on Troy. Georgia Tech held their own with the Georgia Bulldogs, their arch rivals, just a couple of weeks ago. The Camilla Bowl. Arkansas State taking on Northern Illinois. That game in Montgomery on December 23rd. Also on December 23rd, one of the best stories in all of college football this season, James Madison will face Air Force. That game in Fort Worth. Great year for James Madison in just their second year in the FBS. The famous Idaho Potato Bowl. I love that mascot. I believe his name's Spuddy there at the Potato Bowl. That game will feature Utah State and Georgia State from Albertson Stadium in Boise on December 23rd. Also on December 23rd, the 68 Ventures Bowl in Mobile, South Alabama. Should have a decent crowd there in Mobile as they take on Eastern Michigan. The Las Vegas Bowl. Northwestern, after all the turmoil this offseason, they find themselves going bowling, and Utah will be their opponent. Utah was not the year they had hoped for, never got Cam Rising back, but they have high hopes as they enter the Big 12 Conference next year. The Hawaii Bowl. San Jose State takes on Coastal Carolina. That game in Honolulu, Hawaii. Coastal Carolina, despite losing all that they've lost over the last couple of years, they still find a way to make a bowl once again with that good talent and pedigree that they've had with that program there as of late. Grayson McCall doing a really good job as their starting quarterback. So, how many of these bowl games do you plan on watching? There's 41 of them to be exact. How many? I'm going to watch as many as I can personally. What about you? Let me know how many games you plan on watching a bowl season this year. Now, the Quick Lane Bowl, the day after Christmas at Ford Field in Detroit. Bowling Green will face Minnesota. The First Responders Bowl, Texas State will face Rice. That game on the campus of SMU at Gerald Ford Stadium. Two Texas teams getting to stay in the state of Texas for their bowl game. The Kansas Jayhawks, one of the best stories in all of college football. What a turnaround by Lance Leipold and company. Should be the last game ever for Jason Bean with the Jayhawks. They take on a UNLV team that's shocked everybody, getting to the Mountain West Conference Championship game. That will take place in Phoenix on December 26th. The Military Bowl on December 27th, Virginia Tech takes on Tulane in Annapolis. Tulane was very close to getting to a New Year's Six Bowl, ultimately came up short with a loss to SMU in the American Conference Championship. Everyone's favorite bowl, the Duke's Mayo Bowl, where the winner of this game, the winning coach, will have mayo dumped on them. Will it be Mac Brown or Neil Brown? What can Brown do for you? Drake May, we'll see if he plays in this game or not. West Virginia, 8 wins this year with not a whole lot of expectations for that team, which was many thought was the worst roster in the Big 12 this year. The Holiday Bowl, Louisville, who went to the ACC championship games this year, takes on USC. Caleb Williams not expected to play in this game. A disappointing season for the USC Trojans, who had college football playoff aspirations. Lincoln Riley, one of the most difficult coaching jobs we've seen in the country this year, with only 7 wins. The Texas Bowl, Texas A&M will go down the road to Houston to take on a former conference rival, Oklahoma State. Both these teams squared off numerous years in the Big 12 Conference. Oklahoma State coming off a Big 12 championship game appearance. That game there on December 27th at 9 p.m. from NRG Stadium. The Fenway Bowl, yes, at a baseball stadium, folks, but not just any baseball stadium. One of the best out there. Boston College takes on SMU. SMU was very close to going to a New Year's Six game. Instead, they'll play there in the cold in Boston. Boston College gets a home game there at Fenway Park. Speaking of baseball and bowl games in baseball stadiums, the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium will feature Miami and Rutgers in that one. Both these teams were former rivals in the Big East Conference and have gone their separate ways, with Rutgers in the Big Ten and Miami in the ACC. Don't miss out on daily coverage here on College Football Now, as we're talking the latest news and rumors. We're going to be all over the transfer portal, National Signing Day, getting you ready for the college football playoff. If you are a college football fan, you got to subscribe now. Best part about it, doesn't cost you a thing. Absolutely 100% free. Subscribe now. If we get 20 subs off today's video, I promise you we can bring you more college football coverage here on College Football Now. The Pop-Tarts Bowl, the winner of this game, will literally get to eat the mascot. Don't ask me how, but it should be entertaining. Kansas State, their quarterback, Will Howard, in the portal. Not sure if he'll play in this game, taking on Dave Doran, who just celebrated a birthday today, according to Brett McMurphy. Then later that night, the Alamo Bowl. We did not forget the Alamo here at Chat Sports, as the Oklahoma Sooners, coming off a 10-win season under second-year head coach Brent Venables, take on one of the best turnarounds in the country, Jeff Fish, with the Arizona program. Really good job for them of what they were able to do, getting to this Alamo Bowl and having a very successful season. The Gator Bowl, Clemson taking on Kentucky. That game in Jacksonville. Clemson, a disappointing year, but had some moments at the end of the season. Kentucky, Mark Stoops stays around as their head coach, and they got the big win over their arch rival Louisville at the end of the season. The Sun Bowl, Notre Dame will be in that one on December 29th in El Paso. Oregon State, their final game as a member of the Pac-12 as we know it. Jonathan Smith, their head coach, off to Michigan State. The Liberty Bowl, Memphis gets to play in their own stadium against Iowa State. The Cyclones, a big surprise this year after an offseason that had a lot of scandal. The Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl will feature Toledo and Wyoming. Wyoming going back there for the second straight season. The Music City Bowl, Auburn, who went toe-to-toe with Bama just a couple weeks ago, they get a trip to Nashville to take on Maryland. And then the ReliQuest Bowl, which is formerly known as the Outback Bowl, will feature LSU and Wisconsin. We get to see Mr. Daniels himself, who might be holding up that Heisman Trophy here at the end of the week. The Citrus Bowl, Iowa faces Tennessee. That game from Camping World Stadium. The most dreadful offense you'll ever see, the Iowa Hawkeyes, trying to go toe-to-toe with a very powerful Tennessee offense. We'll see how that game goes. Before we wrap up today's show, if you made it to the end of today's video, shout out your favorite college football team. Hopefully they're going bowling. Appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next time here on College Football Now.